Hello. Okay, in this video I am going to show you how to create a detailed drawing for this weldment. Um, I have already modeled the parts, saved them and closed them. I have finished the weldment assembly, added the beads. I went and added an extra groove weld on the side. Don't worry about that if you couldn't get a chance to do that. It was not part of the assignment. But I have saved my assembly and I'm ready to make a drawing. So um, let's begin. I'm going to click File from the drop-down menu, New, Drawing. Now, if your dialog box does not look like this, you may have to check Show Custom Sizing or uncheck Show Custom Sizing from the bottom. The goal, no matter what, is you have to make sure you see ANSI. If you do not see ANSI, you may have to click this button down here or browse until you can find it. If you cannot find an ANSI sheet format, you have to let me know. All right, again, this is the drawing for week 3. All right, I'm looking at the print and it's about 4 inches long. We're going to have a top, front, and right side view, maybe an isometric view and some dimensions. So a B landscape would absolutely fit everything, but I'm going to shoot for an A size. And if for whatever reason it looks too cramped, we can always bump up to a B size later. So let me back up a second and do that one more time. So here's my assembly. It's saved. File, New, Drawing, A ANSI landscape. And you can begin by inserting your assembly, or if you hit the cancel button on your view layout tab, you can try the standard 3 view button. I don't use the standard 3 view button because not everything requires 3 views, but this part, being as simple as it is, only needs 3 views. So I'm going to left click and drag these views until they're a little closer together. I'm going to zoom in and make sure that there are no tangent edges. There aren't any tangent edges in this weldment, but I'm going to remove them anyway. So I'm going to right click on each view and click tangent edges removed, just in case I have to add a fillet at some point. And I don't want to see tangent edges. They don't belong on a blueprint. I'm also going to adjust my scale. So now that I have my views placed into my drawing, I'm going to right click anywhere in the paper space. I'm going to click Properties. And I want to make sure that my scale is 1:1, and it's not. Right now it's 1:2, which means it is half the size, right? It's 1:1 is full size, 1:2 is half size, 2:1 is twice as big. So let's look at what 1:1 looks like. So 1:1 on an 8.5 by 11 looks a little cramped. So this is great. I'm going to bump this up from an A size blueprint to a B size. That's very easy to do. I'm going to right click. I'm going to go back to Properties, and I'm going to switch it to a B ANSI landscape with a scale of 1:1 and hit Apply Changes. So you'll notice, I think it looks a lot better. We got a lot more room to work with. Good rule of thumb is you always want to chase the sheet size to the full size of your parts. So here's our weldment bracket, full size. I'm going to add an isometric view. I think it would be really nice to show a welder or a fabricator or someone in a machine shop what this looks like as an isometric. So to do that, you have to be on the View Layout tab. Click Projected View because we are going to project a 4th view. Click the view that you want to project from, and then when you move your cursor, it's going to add projection views. I can add the rear, I can add the right view again, I can add the top view again, or the bottom view. In this case, I want to move my cursor over here and place that isometric view. I'll slide it in the corner, and I prefer to see my isometric views as shaded with edges. So on the left-hand side, click shaded with edges. Okay, at any time you can click on a view and change its display style. We'll leave that one alone. Okay, so here's my isometric view. Now I want to come to my front view and I want to visually see hidden lines in both my top and right side view, but I'm going to turn those hidden lines on in my front view. That way I can see the hidden lines everywhere. And if you remember from our Zoom class, I did mention that hidden lines start to look confusing on a weldment. These hidden lines that you see in the back are the hidden lines for the groove and the weld that I added. So it looks a little different. So again, just be careful with hidden lines. Sometimes they help, sometimes they hurt. We definitely want to see hidden lines over here. Perfect. Okay. Lots of hidden lines, little confusing over here. I'm actually going to shut them off in this view. So I'm going to click this view and say hidden lines removed. I think it looks nicer without them there, and we'll leave them on here. All right, now annotations, center marks, center lines, things like that you can find on the annotations toolbar. And I'm going to add my center marks first, simply by clicking on the circular edge of all of these drilled holes. And then I'm going to add a couple of center lines. And I think that's good for now. I don't think we need anything else. So at this point, I've got my views. I have this view shaded. I have tangent edges shut off. My units are inches, pounds, and seconds. Let me double check that my drafting standard is correct. You do not want ISO. You want ANSI. And I'm going to do a quick file save because I don't want to do any of that again. So I have my Weldment assembly is complete and saved. I have the start of my drawing on the correct B-size 11 by 17 sheet format, and I'm ready to add some dimensions. I prefer to use model items, so I'm going to show you how to use model items. I'm going to click model items from the annotations toolbar, and I want to make sure that this marked for drawing button is selected. And then I'm going to start selecting features. So I'll select my base feature first and hit the green check mark. I just want to look around, and sometimes SolidWorks will throw dimensions where they don't belong, like this one. I'm just going to slide out and maybe move it here. And I'm going to zoom up here. I think the 4x2 looks good, so I'll leave it. I'm going to go back to model items and pick another feature. Maybe this back block. Maybe this hole. Ooh, okay. The reason why the hole didn't show up is because I used Hole Wizard. So on the left-hand side, I have to, in model items, I have to make sure that Hole Wizard locations and hole callouts are shown. Now when I click on this hole, you'll notice SolidWorks gives me the note right from Hole Wizard, which is nice. It gives me the diameter symbol, the size, and it even puts through all. And I'm going to slide this over. All right, we're going to go back to this dimension. I do not like it. Actually, I'm just going to delete it. And let's take a look up here. We'll move this out of the way. I think I can leave that dimension there. That looks great. And this dimension I don't like. I'm going to delete it. Let's zoom over here. So model items works, I'd say 90% of the time. So it's not going to work for these height dimensions because of how I modeled it. So I have to, on the annotations toolbar, click Smart Dimension, and then just add these dimensions manually. So the 1 and then the overall height. So a little bit of extra work there, but not too difficult. Let's go back to model items and try the gusset. All right. So added a couple of extra dimensions like this one. I don't need. It's in the way, so I'm going to delete it. The 3-inch is fine. I can leave it here in this view, or I can move it to the top view. And I think I'm going to move it to the top view. This 1/4 inch I'm going to delete. This one I'm going to slide over. This one is a duplicate dimension. This width and this width are identical. I don't need a duplicate dimension, so I'm just going to pick a view and remove it. Let's see, what else can we do? Yeah, no, I think we're good there. Let's, for the sake of argument, add typical next to this. That way someone knows that that's 1/4 inch and that is 1/4 inch. This view is actually not even being used. We can delete it if we want to, or we can leave it for reference. I think I may just leave it for reference. I'm going to go back to model items. I'm going to pick this hole, and I'm going to take a look and see if I can clean up some of these dimensions. So this can slide out of the way. This can move out of the way. This can come over here. This is fine, I think, where it is. And we'll get this. You never want to put dimensions inside views. You want to get them out. So I'll just move that over there. And let's take a look and see if we can neaten up these dimensions a little bit by dragging them around. This doesn't have to be so far away, so I'll bring that in a little closer. All right, I'm just left clicking and dragging. I'm going to slide this view up just a hair. You'll notice that when I bring my cursor near the view, it gives me this pan option. So I can pan or move or slide the view, give myself a little bit of space. All right, so let's ask ourselves, do we have everything? We have the overall length and width. We have the thickness. The gusset is 3. We got a 1/4 there. We've got the heights. If I wanted to add an angle here, I could go to Smart Dimension and add an angle for reference. That's not an ideal angle, so I'm just going to delete it. Not necessary. All right, let's add some welds. So I'm going to go back to model items, and I want to make sure that weld symbols is selected. And I'm going to click this view. I'm going to say yes to whatever that was saying. All right, look at this. Looks very cluttered. I'm going to delete everything except one. I think that will sum it up right there. Okay, this is talking about this weld and that, but we also have these vertical welds and this weld. So we could add another weld note. We could add one here. I think the isometric view pretty much clears up what has to happen. If I was in industry, I could also put a note here that says, you know, 1/8 fillet welds all around. So I'm going to leave that. At least this view has something now. Drawings are the most tedious, I'll be honest with you. They're the most difficult sometimes to wrap your head around. But here is where the thinking should happen in your assembly. This is where it needs to be correct, because your drawing is just a representation of your model. So other than notes, you know, telling someone what the material is, does it get sandblasted? You have to deburr all the sharp edges. Our drawing is done, and that is your second lab assignment for week 3. Okay, thanks for watching.